Let's not sugarcoat it. When Kevin Stefanski finally admitted what everyone watching already knew, jaws dropped across the league. For weeks, the Browns had been clinging to a narrative that was visibly crumbling in real time. Now, the illusion was shattered. Stefanski had made a call, one that backfired spectacularly. And in his own quiet, reluctant way, he was owning it. I might have got it wrong. That's all it took. 10 seconds. One sentence. And suddenly, the quarterback room in Cleveland exploded into the hottest storyline in football. Let's rewind.
If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed.
All preseason long, the Browns had been selling the idea that Dillon Gabriel was the guy. The safe option. The pro-ready quarterback. Never mind the red flags from training camp. Never mind the turnovers, the lack of urgency, the weird body language after blown plays. The coaching staff was all in on Gabriel, even as the stadium lights kept exposing his flaws. Meanwhile, Shedeur Sanders was standing quietly on the sideline, watching, waiting, practicing like his shot was guaranteed, even though everyone could see it wasn't. The guy had already delivered one of the cleanest preseason debuts Cleveland had seen in years. Accurate throws, confident drives, leadership under pressure. He didn't just manage the game. He elevated it. But still, Stefanski rode with Gabriel. It wasn't just a decision. It was a statement. And that statement echoed far beyond the locker room. Because when a coach benches the better performer for a guy who's clearly not delivering, people start asking questions. About politics. About favoritism. About control. The final straw came during the Eagles game. It was supposed to be Gabriel's redemption arc, the moment where he silenced the doubters and proved why Stefanski believed in him. Instead, it turned into a slow-motion disaster. An interception that looked like it was gift-wrapped for the defense. A strip sack that turned into 6 points the other way. And worst of all, the offense looked dead. No energy. No rhythm. No fire. From the first snap, it was clear. This wasn't a quarterback leading his team. This was a quarterback hoping not to drown. Fans in the stands started chanting Sanders' name midway through the second quarter. Loud enough that even Stefanski looked visibly uncomfortable. The camera panned to Shedeur, helmet off, stone-faced. If he was upset, he didn't show it. That was the thing about him, boys. Even when the system around him was crumbling. After the game, Stefanski was grilled. Reporters asked why Sanders didn't get a single snap. If the injury report was real. Whether Gabriel's leash was truly that long. And for once, Stefanski didn't dodge. We wanted to give Dillon a fair chance, he said. But looking back, maybe that wasn't the right move. That sound you heard? That was the league taking notice. That was the locker room reeling. That was Shedeur Sanders, in that moment, unofficially stepping into the role he'd already earned weeks ago. Because here's the truth, you can't coach confidence into a quarterback. You can't fake presence. You can't install leadership through reps. Either a guy has it, or he doesn't. And from day one, Sanders had it. Gabriel didn't. But now, it wasn't just about who looked better in preseason. This had become a battle of credibility. Stefanski's entire leadership style was under fire. He had backed the wrong quarterback and nearly lit a fuse under the entire franchise doing it. And that's where things started to unravel even more. Veterans in the locker room? They saw what was happening. They saw a rookie like Sanders outworking everyone and still getting iced out. That doesn't sit well. Not in a league where every snap counts. Not when guys are laying their bodies on the line, only to watch politics dictate who's under center. And Gabriel didn't help himself either. Instead of taking accountability, he doubled down in interviews. Said the offense wasn't fully clicking yet. Mentioned how some guys bring flash, others bring fight. Another thinly veiled jab at Shedeur. As if anyone still needed to decode what he meant. But Sanders never bit back. No interviews. No social media digs. Just film. Practice. Representatives. The professionalism he showed was surgical, something you don't see often from a rookie, let alone one being benched behind someone clearly underperforming. That's why fans loved him. That's why teammates started rallying around him even before he was named the starter. And that's why the Browns front office had no choice but to intervene. It wasn't a press release. It wasn't a dramatic announcement. It was a quiet, deliberate shift. Suddenly, Sanders was getting first-team reps in practice. Suddenly, Gabriel wasn't leading warm-ups. Suddenly, Stefanski stopped mentioning the injury that supposedly sidelined Sanders. The change had begun. And even though Stefanski never said it outright, everyone knew. He was preparing to make the switch. Now, let's talk about damage control. The Browns weren't just trying to fix their depth chart, they were trying to save face. Because the narrative had already escaped them. Analysts like Stephen A. Smith were openly accusing Stefanski of sabotaging Sanders' rise to avoid controversy. Other networks were running side-by-side comparisons showing Sanders outperforming Gabriel in every key metric: yardage, decision-making, leadership, even jersey sales. That's right, Shedeur Sanders was outselling Gabriel 5-1 in Browns merch. And the league noticed. National broadcasts started hinting at the obvious. If Cleveland didn't start Sanders soon, another team might try to pry him away. The buzz around him wasn't just hype. It was market pressure. He had become a brand, a movement, a potential face of the franchise. And Gabriel? He had become a cautionary tale. What happens next is critical. The Browns have an opportunity to pivot, to admit their mistake, hand the reins to Sanders, and let him run. Not just for the sake of winning, but for the identity of the team moving forward. Because the fans? They're already there. They're chanting his name, buying his gear, following his journey. The locker room is starting to lean that way too. Quietly, steadily. Because players know when a guy can lead them. And Sanders? He's got that gravity. He doesn't need to scream in huddles or slam tablets on the sideline. He just steps in, and everyone plays better. That's not coachable. That's rare. And Kevin Stefanski, to his credit, finally seems to see it. It took too long. The damage may already be done in some corners. But if he hands over the offense to Sanders now, he might salvage more than just the season. He might save his job, his reputation, and the trust of a city that's been burned too many times. Because let's be real, Cleveland deserves better. And right now, better is standing on the sideline in a number 5 jersey, waiting to be unleashed. Not for drama. Not for revenge. Just for the opportunity he's already earned. And this time, the world is watching. The fallout from Stefanski's admission didn't just ripple through the Cleveland Browns. It cracked the foundation. Because when a head coach confesses, even subtly, that he made the wrong call under the brightest lights of preseason scrutiny, it invites more than just second-guessing. It unleashes full-blown institutional chaos. Suddenly, every staff meeting becomes a silent referendum on judgment. Every sideline glance is loaded with meaning. And behind closed doors? The whispers start. Why was Gabriel the starter in the first place? Who was really driving that decision? Stefanski, or someone higher up? Was this just a coaching blunder, or something deeper? You've got to understand, quarterback controversies in the NFL aren't just about XS and OS. They're about power, control, trust. And once that trust is broken, even just cracked, it doesn't come back easily. There were murmurs from within the team's analytics department that Gabriel had underperformed in nearly every practice metric leading up to the game. Ball placement, pocket presence, decision-making time, all trending in the wrong direction. But those numbers were buried, deprioritized, ignored in favor of intangibles. The same tired line. Meanwhile, Sanders was outperforming him in practice without even being given the full playbook. Let that sink in. He was outplaying Gabriel while learning a partial install. His efficiency was higher, his mental processing quicker, and the feedback from positional coaches? Glowing. But for weeks, those reports went nowhere. That's where the real drama lives, not just on the field, but in the meetings behind the scenes. Stefanski's early refusal to elevate Sanders wasn't made in a vacuum. There were politics involved. There always are. There were whispers, mind you, that Gabriel's agent had a relationship with someone in the Browns front office. Not illegal. Not even particularly unusual, but enough to raise eyebrows when those initial decisions looked this lopsided. Then came the locker room dynamics. Players aren't blind. They saw Sanders getting 0 snaps after outworking his competition. They saw Gabriel melting down again and again, and still being rewarded with another series, another chance. That creates resentment, division. And when your offense is already struggling to find identity, the last thing you need is your team questioning whether the guy under center is actually deserving of the position. Even the offensive line, typically the most neutral unit in terms of locker room politics, was reportedly more vocal than usual about the quarterback inconsistency. One player, unnamed of course, was overheard saying, "We don't have time to babysit another mistake. Just give us the guy who runs the damn play." And as for Shedeur Sanders, he never lashed out. Never went to the media. Never threw shade. His silence became louder than any quote. He showed up early, stayed late, made the most of scout team reps, didn't ask for the job, just kept making it clear he was ready when they were. That kind of maturity doesn't go unnoticed, not just by teammates, but by ownership. Yes, Jimmy Haslam was watching. Insiders say Haslam had already grown weary of Gabriel's ceiling long before the Eagles game imploded. And when Sanders' name started trending nationally for not playing, that was the moment it shifted from a football issue to a business one. You think ownership wants their 5th-round rookie, the son of Deion Sanders, drawing headlines for being benched while fans chant his name during commercial breaks? Please. This isn't just a quarterback controversy anymore. It's a franchise identity crisis. Because the Browns aren't just deciding between 2 young QBs. They're deciding who they are going to be as a franchise. Are they a team that clings to outdated hierarchies, protecting veteran comfort zones and coaching pride? Or are they willing to adapt, evolve, lean into the future? And let's not pretend this is happening in a vacuum. Other teams are watching too, lurking even. You don't think the Rams or Falcons or Raiders would pounce if the Browns soured on Sanders. You don't think they'd see the untapped potential, the clean mechanics, the brand power, and think, "Oh yeah, we'll take that today"? Cleveland may have drafted Shedeur. But if they're not careful, someone else will develop him. And it won't be the first time this organization fumbled generational talent. Just ask any fan wearing a Tim Couch, Brady Quinn, Johnny Manziel, or Baker Mayfield jersey how that went. But this time, it feels different. There's a sense of inevitability here. Like no matter how many depth charts they shuffle or excuses they craft, Shedeur Sanders is coming. And when he does, he's not just going to manage games. He's going to take them over. That's the pressure Stefanski's under now. Not just to make the right call, but to make it in time. Because if the next preseason game rolls around and Sanders is still warming the bench, that's not just bad coaching. That's organizational malpractice. The fans have already chosen. The locker room is almost there. The media's waiting for the headline. And the rest of the league? They're circling with their trade packages quietly being drafted in case Cleveland blinks. Kevin Stefanski still has time to fix this. But every week that passes, every snap Gabriel takes while Sanders watches from the sideline, that's another drop of credibility draining out of Berea. This isn't just a story about quarterbacks. It's a story about vision, about choosing between comfort and courage, about letting go of ego before it drowns an entire season. And if Stefanski can't do that, he might find himself following the same path as Gabriel, out of excuses, out of chances, and, if things spiral, out of Cleveland. Because this city is tired of watching potential get buried. And this time, they're not just hoping for better. They've already seen it. When Shedeur Sanders pulled on his number 12 jersey, honoring Tom Brady and wearing a piece of his father's legacy, he didn't just get dressed for practice. He made a statement. That number became a marker of blood, sweat, and expectation, an insignia for not just a position, but a change in culture. And now, somewhere in the Browns facility, the tension between what could have been and what was is suffocating. Because here's the main thread twisting all this chaos together: trust. At the most basic level, every organization is built on trust. Trust that the coach will make the right calls. Trust that veterans will protect the rookies. Trust that the front office will shield the locker room from external nonsense. But here, the trust is fraying. Players who've been around the block are whispering that this isn't just bad quarterback play, it's losing faith in the system. That's not a mindset you survive with, especially in a group sport. When guys start caring less about the rhythm and more about reputations, you're one locker room speech away from rebellion. Meanwhile, ownership sees the collapse too. They see dwindling social media engagement, merchandise gathering dust, and broadcast partners beginning to treat Browns games like filler content. That's not just bad optics, it's cold, hard dollar signs. And know who's also watching? The scouting departments of every other team. They're calculating. They're waiting. Because a quarterback who moves the needle like Shedeur doesn't fall through the cracks for long. His market value isn't tied to Cleveland's patience, it's tied to his production, poise, and potential. Now picture this. The Browns finally flip the page and give Sanders the start. He lights it up. Completes drives. Keeps the offense moving. The fans go wild. Ratings spike again. Sponsors demand more airtime when he's playing. But here's where it gets messy. Kevin Stefanski's career is on the line. Publicly admitting a mistake like this is rare in the NFL. Executives don't forgive easily. When a coach gets cornered by the story he helped create, even a redemption arc can feel hollow. Gabriel, meanwhile? He's in a precarious place. He's been handed chances that many players would kill for. But his legacy is unraveling. If not in the record books, then in the minds of fans, teammates, and league insiders. He might still have a future as a backup, but his mantle as a bridge quarterback? That's evaporating in real time. Now, let's pull back even further. This story isn't just about Cleveland or those two quarterbacks. It's about the evolving quarterback age. We're in a transitional era where certain traits matter more than others: adaptability, authenticity, charisma, and digital presence. Shedeur checks all those boxes. Traditional skill? Mental processing? That intangible command of a room? Absolutely. And he arrives with legacy and hype already built in, a rare combination. Gabriel, on the other hand, represents the old-school model. Studied quarterback, smart but not flashy, system-ready, but not culture-defining. That model used to win Super Bowls. But not anymore. Not in a league built on clicks, hashtags, and Netflix documentaries. That's the subtext of this saga. A franchise deciding whether it wants to function like it's 2015 or 2025. Because get this, if Shedeur becomes the starter and humbles the league with his play, he could redefine the quarterback position for years to come. He could be the high-profile rookie who actually stuck the landing. The rare success story. And even if he doesn't win a Super Bowl by year 3, his cultural impact could already define a generation of players. But none of that matters if the Browns don't let him play. Today, this is still just a quarterback controversy. Maybe not even that, it's more like a leadership crisis. Tomorrow? It could turn into the moment this franchise finally snapped back, or officially signaled it was still stuck. Fans are already burning the phrase, "Win or let him go." And that matters. Because in Cleveland, hope isn't cheap. You churn through quarterbacks until something sticks. That means for a player like Shedeur, being reduced to QB2 isn't just a lost opportunity, it's a career killer. There's something biblical about it. The star arrives, unshakable, carries hope, and is sidelined by fear, tradition, ego. And now the task is universal. Who will repent? Will they swallow their pride and hand him the keys? Or will they stay handcuffed to their old ways and watch the altar they built crumble? This is where the story branches. Where Cleveland's next chapter hinges on whether they have the guts to let the kid lead. Win with Shedeur? They're heroes. Lose with Gabriel? They're fools. The narrative is one sentence away from becoming permanent. And right now, I can tell you who's ready. Number 12. Helmet off. Poise immaculate. Still waiting. Still ready. Because greatness? It doesn't clock in. It waits. And Cleveland? It better be ready to let it start. And here's the kicker, everyone else in the league knows it. From rival GMs to national analysts, to sponsors eyeing that prime Sunday slot, they're all watching Cleveland's every move. Not because the Browns are winning championships, yet, but because they're holding a golden ticket and pretending it's just another scratch-off. You can feel it bubbling up in every media segment. What are the Browns doing with Shedeur Sanders? Isn't just a talking point, it's becoming the question. Former players are weighing in, journalists are running with it, and fans? They've stopped just speculating. They're demanding. Look at the numbers. Gabriel starts have tanked fan enthusiasm. Engagement is flatlining. Merchandise sales for the backup QB? Ice cold. Meanwhile, Sanders, without playing a single down in 2 weeks, still tops social media mentions, still trends during games he's not even in, still moves jerseys like he's already a Pro Bowler. And let's not pretend this is all just hype. Hype doesn't get your name mentioned by Hall of Famers. Hype doesn't earn you sideline respect from vets who've seen it all. Hype doesn't generate fear in opposing defensive coordinators trying to prepare for someone they haven't even seen enough tape on. That's not hype. That's presence. And in the NFL? Presence is everything. You don't keep that on the bench unless you're scared. Scared of change, scared of losing face, scared of shaking up the depth chart that you sold in press conferences a month ago. But you know what's scarier? Losing your locker room. Because the moment players start side-eyeing the coaching staff, not just on play calls, but on philosophy, it's over. The belief dies. The structure cracks. And once that happens, no scheme or strategy can save you. What's wild is that Cleveland isn't being asked to take a gamble here. They're being handed a solution. For free. No mid-season trade, no salary cap disaster, no chemistry rebuild. Just start the guy. The guy who's already on your roster. The guy your own fan base is chanting for. The guy you drafted. The window is still open. Just barely. But windows don't stay that way forever. If Stefanski waits too long, if management tries to overcalculate this any further, they're going to fumble this moment worse than Gabriel fumbled that snap against the Eagles. Only this one won't be a turnover, it'll be a franchise shift. And somewhere on that sideline, Shedeur's just standing there. Ready. Still wearing 12. Still giving them time to do the right thing. But time doesn't wait forever. And neither will he.